Justin, before we get started, I do have to ask you a question. I don't know if you buy silly things online a lot. I do a lot of online shopping and I buy
Mhm.
things I probably don't need. So I get inundated with ads. Have you seen that the Joe Burrow Air Burrow throw was made into a Christmas ornament?
Oh, I did, and it's also been made into T-shirts, man, and it is so crazy how
Listen,
much
t-shirts I
everything.
expected. It's the Christmas ornament that caught me off guard.
You know what? That would have been one hell of a Christmas ornament if somebody would have got that for me as a gift for Christmas. That would have been the greatest Christmas
I
gift.
mean, you would have paid $30 to overnight ship it, I think.
You probably
But
would have because there was no way it was going to be coming to anybody by the holidays. Yeah, that was going to be crazy.
nut for sure. All right, well, you have reached running through the jungle crew here with the roaring reactions and coach's cliff notes. I'm your host, Brandon Harry, with your host, Justin Lacey. What to do, Justin?
Yeah, just happy to wake up fresh in the morning. Woke up with a little extra pep in my step. It usually feels like a Monday after the Bengals play on a Saturday, but then
Mhm.
we still got a whole slate of football, like regular football, on this glorious Sunday. So I got my cup of Joe. Literally, it's a Bengals coffee mug. It's morning time. I'm ready to get started with you, brother.
Absolutely. For those of you tuning in, it's an unusual Sunday morning episode here. Wanted to get this out of the way before football started, or if you're listening wherever you get your podcast, take a moment for us if you would like, subscribe, thumbs up, 5-star reviews, add a little comment in there, anything to get those algorithms up. We appreciate you for it. Yeah, this is a game that we've been losing all year.
Facts.
Wild finish, weird things going on,
Hmm.
and we've figured out a way to not play complimentary football. When the offense and Joe Burrow referenced it, uh, basically had to finish 3 different times.
Right.
We've not been able to get that stop on defense. We've not been able when we have the missed field goal. It immediately leads to our demise. That's been the Bengals season all year. They finally put together the pieces, had a defensive stop or two, and were able to come back and win these games after Joe Burrow, takes us down, puts us in winning position again, and we kick a field goal on third down. I, I don't know. Um, I mean, there's a reason why you were able to sign York as a kicker out of the clear blue in the middle of the season when McPherson gets injured, and that's because he has not done well in the NFL when he's been kicking. So to rely on him as your third down when you have someone playing quarterback at a elite level, probably the best in the league this year. You can make your argument with him and Lamar Jackson, but listen, man, if I have a Ferrari, I'm not going to pull the Pinto out of the garage and race with that. I'm going to race with the Ferrari. That's just me, and it is what it is. But listen, just overall view, your overall thoughts of how this game went before we break it down. What'd you think?
You know what? Let me start off by giving the Denver Broncos an ungodly amount of credit for putting up an amazing fight. We both knew that the Broncos were a great team going in. If anybody had tuned into our Running Through the Jungle episode when we did the preview coverage of this game, you heard me spoke a lot of glowing things about this Broncos defense, that they are fast, that they can get off the ball pretty quickly, led by Nick Benito. And they had other guys that was coming in and getting sacks. They sacked Joe Burrow, what, 6, 7 times or whatnot? It was crazy how many times they got him on the ground and just hitting him. And yet, Patrick Surtain, again, it was one of those guys where I said, man, I don't want to go against that dude if Jamar Chase is on the field trying to chase the triple crown. But I knew that Jamar Chase was going to, want to do something about that. Don't let the last time that these two teams matched up fool you in thinking that that's what's going to happen again. It looked like that was going to be the case early on because
He
they
ended up
made a
getting his
concerted
100.
effort. They made a concerted effort, but it was that one. You just knew Jamar Chase was gonna come alive at some point, and he did. But most importantly, man, I need to give credit to Bo Nix. The Broncos found their guy, and like I said before, this team reminds me of the 2011 Bengals back when we had rookie Andy Dalton and AJ Green that was leading the charge. Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton and a couple of other guys, man, I feel like that this team, just give them maybe another year or two, and they can truly make some noise in the AFC or whatnot. As long as they add the right pieces. Sean Payton's still one hell of a coach. But my overall takeaway of this game is just simple. Joe Burrow is special. Joe Burrow is just absolutely special. T. Higgins is needed on his team. We kind of already said it as well too, that the Bengals offense has been historic levels great this year. Even though I've been critical a little bit because they have shown inconsistencies even in this game. A lot of drop passes early on in the first half,
For
missed
sure.
opportunities in the red zone, drop passes in the end zone,
Facts.
missing fourth down conversion. But some of that I also give credit to a great stout Broncos defense because they made it really tough in the red zone. And then your point about the K York. First of all, K York, oh man, that's just frustrating to see that because it's like, look, you should have made that extra. That was an extra point. That was 33 yards. That was an extra point distance. It was centered perfectly fine. You should have just made the kick, dog. That's no excuse that he missed something like that. It's the same thing we've been saying about Evan McPherson as well too. He gave me Roberto Aguayo vibes when he misses that kick and shanks it like that. That's just I just can't see that anymore. I don't blame the Bengals for going for the win immediately right there, just because you did enough to get there in that spot. You would have liked to seen a touchdown pass thrown, but what if it gets knocked down or intercepted? And next thing you know, you're asking yourself, why don't you just kick it on third down? We go through these back and forth arguments all the time. There's no excuse. You should never miss that kick. But
I trust Joe Burrow though.
I do
He
trust Joe Burrow.
hasn't thrown a pick yet. I'm gonna trust him. Like, hey, this either needs to be a touchdown or an incompletion. Period.
Look,
End of discussion.
you got to go with your gut there, and I think that the Bengals are just looking like, look, man, we're super close. There's no way we should be missing this field goal. You got to just kick it now and get out of here.
But to me,
And
kick it on fourth down.
That's true. I do respect and I do agree with that.
When was the last time that you saw, and I get the whole idea, you snap it on third. If it's a bad snap, you can down it, blah, 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 blah. When was the last time that you saw a kick on third down that was snapped and someone said bad snap and downed it? I have never in my life seen it.
Yeah.
I know why people do it, but I've never seen it. To me, that's the most unlikely of situations. It's more likely that in that situation, Joe Burrow gets you a first down and gets you closer or gets you a touchdown.
Right. And also too, I look at it as basically how you look at it, man. We lost these kind of games all year long. When you think back to, I'm not even going to count week one, but when you think back to both Baltimore games, when you think back to the Washington Commanders game, when you think back to the Chargers game, and I'm sure there's other games people will point to as well too, but those are the games that really resonate within me, where it's like you had all these opportunities to win this game, and then that somebody just decided to not show up when the moment needed to happen, whether that was mainly the defense, special teams, or offense at points where they didn't just close it out. And it was just nice to see. And you almost thought that we were going to lose this game because somebody didn't show up. But then, there you go. Joe Burrow shows up when you needed him to show up because, look, he got you 3 game-winning drives. And it's just unfortunate that they ended the way that it ended. And yet, for him to say, man, screw this kicker. Thank you, defense, for finally getting me the ball back because, let's keep it real. It was their fault while we got into overtime in the first place. But the defense really bowled their necks up twice in a situation where I thought, man, dude, after that missed field goal, that probably is it. We're going to probably lose this game. I'm not going to lie to you.
I think we all thought that just because of
man,
what we've been conditioned to feel this year.
It's been the storyline of the 2024 Cincinnati Bengals. But the defense stood up. They stood tall. They forced Bo Nix to basically play erratic, unless it's kind of – I got to give credit where credit's due, too, because, look, I hate everything about what the defense has been this year, and I've criticized Lou Anarumo. But, man, when you needed him to step up and we need this defense to play great as a whole, as a unit, they had some missed opportunities and whatnot, but they actually did their job. And they got Joe Burrow the ball back. They got Joe Burrow the ball back with basically less than 2 minutes to go in the game, no timeouts. It was a perfect situation for him to ice it and throw that game-winning touchdown. It was an instant classic of the season. It was one of the best games of the season. And we're saying that even though we've already had 2 games against the Ravens that were classics. This one was one of them, and it was finally nice to see the Bengals come out on top.
Commanders was the classic.
Say that again.
The Commanders was the classic, instant
For
classic.
Jaden Daniels, it was classic because of how
I'm
much.
saying it's not for us, but it's
for
there.
them. But for both Baltimore games, those are instant classics. Like, even though they ended in us losing, but this one was really nice because you saw how good the Broncos could be too on display. And that was impressive. Like, I like it when that was like a playoff game. That's when you saw how playoff games typically unfold. It's like this game. It was just amazing to see. Like,
yeah, listen, from from that mile high view, pun intended, playing the Broncos, that mile high view, that overview. If I'm looking at it as overview of the game, to me it was obvious that we were a better team as far as skilled positions go, but the glaring difference was the inside of our offensive line versus their interior defensive line. Huge
100%.
difference.
100%.
And that's got to be one of the things that we fix over next year. And we've talked about it a little bit on defense. We've seen some things, and we'll get into it a little bit more later in the show. But I've seen some glimpses and some things that have made me change my mind about where our biggest holes are and what we need to improve most going into the offseason for next year. And Justin, I'm going to give you props. You were way out ahead of this one for me. Linebacker play has to be better. And you were calling that out in the preseason. And I thought we were going to be solid there. Right. Even with Wilson back and Wilson there, I don't think we have all the answers at linebacker. And I think that may end up being our biggest weakness right now.
It is.
Austin Zart, hey, man, thanks for tuning in with us as always, man. You rock with us more than anybody. He said, yeah, especially when it comes to protecting Joe Burrow. Yeah, protect your biggest asset. That interior offensive line is trash right now.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, and quite frankly, to even touch more on about it. Look, I understand that they made the move of benching Cordell Volson and then putting in Cody Ford, but Cody Ford really wasn't doing pretty good of a job either. And again, competition matters and the quality of who you're going against matters. But at the end of the day, man, you're a pro in this game too. And you should be able to step up and be able to neutralize some of their best guys. It ain't like they got a bunch of household names, on that D-line. Nick Bonito is not even on the D-line. He's an outside linebacker that just happens to be a great effective pass rusher. But, they had guys that just coming in, getting a couple of sacks here and there and whatnot. And I'm just thinking, like, how many times are we going to keep letting this happen? But Joe Burrow did give them credit because you saw that they put a strong emphasis on taking away the Burrow magic factor of him escaping out of the backfield and, making the throws down the field and stuff like that. He gave credit in his reaction, like when he gave his post-game presser, that Denver made a conceited effort to try to take that element out of his game and make it tougher on him in the pocket. And he said, like, there were times where I just had to take sacks. You know what I mean?
They stayed true to their gap integrity. That's what they did. And you watch, that's one of our things on a defense that we are out of gap integrity a ton. Even when they're running twists, if you watch the Broncos, they ran twists. They still got back to those gaps. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they left a gap open for a long time. So if Burrow did step up in the pocket, there was a guy coming around that twist that was going to be right there. And that's what we saw a lot. Kudos to them. I think they played really well. They played great on defense. I do like Bo Nix. I do like the running game. I think the Broncos are going to be a team that is going to be improving over the next 2 or 3 years. They need to get him another piece on offense for sure.
Sure.
Whether that's a tight end or another wide receiver to go with Cortland Sutton. I think that stuck out as a deficiency for them. All those things said, to me, I thought we had the better team. They had the better coach from that, like I said, that mile high view. That's where I saw it last night. And Bo Nix, poise is great. He checks down a lot, does throw a pretty deep ball. But he had a 51-yard touchdown to Mims where Geno Stone just let him fly by. Um,
Crazy.
and he had a 25-yard touchdown to set it in overtime, which was a jump ball that he made an incredible catch on. I know there's
No,
a lot of people saying it wasn't a
yeah,
catch. It was a catch. I don't want to get into letter of the
I ain't
law with
either.
catch right now is the murkiest thing in the world. I saw the play and I said that's a catch.
That's what
I'm
I
good.
said too. I said the same thing too. And then on that first touchdown when he did that long ball that's to 67-yard or whatnot, he saw absolutely no pressure. it, it
Correct.
was it was like, and again, one of those things was like, look, I credit the defense for stepping up in key situations and sometimes, but dude, they were also bad again, like usual, in spots where they just couldn't stop the run. And when it came to trying to get after the guy, man, it was almost like Bo Nix had 20 seconds to launch that ball. It was crazy how easy it was for him sometimes. But like I said, man, I tip my cap to the Denver Broncos, but I do want to ask you this question because if you're on Bengals Twitter or just Twitter in general after last night's game,
Mm-hmm.
the question now is starting to kind of bubble up to the surface or not. Should Joe Burrow be the MVP? And I'm gonna ask you first before I give my reaction.
Uh, when you look at the stats, right? When you look at the stats, he is neck and neck with Lamar Jackson. To
Mm-hmm.
me, it's those two because I think it's 1-2 them, even though DraftKings doesn't say this. I think it's 1-2 them, and very close behind them would be Saquon Barkley for me.
All right.
But there's Joe has more passing yards, Joe has more touchdowns, but Lamar Jackson has more rushing yards, and Lamar Jackson has a higher QBR, right? Passer rating. He is the second highest passer rating since it became a stat right now behind Aaron Rodgers' MVP season.
Yeah.
When you look at what he's doing with what he's got, right? Now you can make this argument. The Bengals have a better wide receiver
Mm-hmm.
core, but it's much improved in Baltimore. I think Baltimore has a little bit better tight end room than we do. I think, King Henry addition there has been really valuable for them. And I think just coaching and overall team play, I think you give them a little bit of a nod there. So it's very tight between those two guys for me. I will say that, Joe Burrow's hit some rarefied air. You go to the 200 consecutive games with over 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's at 8. No one's done it more than 6 times. Now, he did need overtime to get it this time because he had that 3rd touchdown in overtime. But you look at the 40 touchdown club.
Right.
That's Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, Kurt Warner, Matt Stafford, Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and now Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he's hit some rarefied air. I think it comes down to if he has a really good game against the Steelers to close it out and we run the table, regardless of whether we get in the playoffs or not. If he runs the table on the way out, has another 300 plus 3 touchdown game, Lamar doesn't. If Lamar doesn't and kind of stubs his toe or doesn't play, one or the other, I could see him potentially grabbing that there. So 2 weeks ago, he was a plus 10,000 play to win the MVP. By the end of the week, there had been some talk and some chatter, and he ended up at plus 8,000. That's where I put my money at. But he was at plus 8,000. Last night, dropped to plus 2,000. I expect him, as we start seeing talk radio talk about him more, and Monday hit, I think he's going to go down to probably plus 1,500 or plus 1,000.
Yeah.
So he's getting it. He's getting a lot more respect nationally. What do you think?
So here's me. It is actually funny because the previous night, me and one of my homies, man, we was talking about this. And he was very adamant that Joe Burrow should have been an MVP just because his numbers and his stats equated so. And I was basically arguing the opposite in the sense of, look, I agree that he has the numbers, but he doesn't have the quality wins to back it up. All of our wins has been against bad teams. Let's just call it what it is. I said, and I even said that too. He's been at an MVP caliber level, but I just didn't think that he was there to be. He should not have be handed the MVP just because the numbers are there. And even though he's not the reason that we lose the games, it was because the team was failing around him. But man, so funny how after one game changes that perception and that personified view. And now I believe that he needs to be in the conversation completely. What you
I
got
just
there?
pulled up DraftKings. It's at plus 1,400 now. It was at plus 2,000 last night.
Wow. So and so what they're
they have Josh Allen. They have Josh Allen leading it, and
that can probably be a sucker bet if you're going with Josh Allen.
Great season, but I don't think he's had the season that Lamar or Joe have had.
He hasn't had the statistical season that Lamar or Joe has, but he has been very valuable to his team when people thought that was going to be a rebuilding season this year for him, and that the Jets and the Dolphins got better, and that the Bills are supposedly supposed to regress. They trade away Stephon Diggs. To be perfectly honest with you, it's going to end up being Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think that's the fair battle between the two MVP, like who's going to actually really get it. But the question really should be phrased, I should have phrased it, should Joe Burrow be the real MVP? And to me, that answer is yes. He's playing like the best player in the entire NFL right now. He is just cooking with fish grease, and he's doing it with the bereft defense. The interior line still can't protect him. And we saw it on display last night. Man, sometimes his head coach just gets in the way. And it's like for him to overcome his own team and has to beat even a quality opponent like the Denver Broncos, that alone, and still throw up the numbers that he's doing, it's ungodly and unworldly like, man. And that's why he should be the real MVP. I know that he may not get it, and he's playing like MVP caliber seasons. He's had chances to get signature wins earlier in the season against Lamar both times. The Justin Herbert showdown, he outplayed all of these guys. They just happen to end up being losses. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out when it comes to the quality wins leading up to it. But I even said it, man. There's always that one quality win that Bengals fans will point to and be like, you remember that game? This was that game. This was exactly that game. This is exactly the game that we needed. And I'm glad that it happened the way that it did, because you saw Joe Burrow's excellence on display and why he is the real best player and should be the real MVP. And I agree with Micah Parsons, because Micah Parsons said if the Bengals found their way into the playoffs, you probably should put Joe Burrow in the MVP, like give him just give him the award, because all of the stuff that he had to deal with just to get in the playoffs. And you can see the pathway clearly. Like, it's funny that now that you beat the Broncos, you can see the Broncos losing this game twice. Even if they're going against the Chiefs backups, there's no guarantee that they beat Kansas City, even their backups. They getting their ass whooped by the Chiefs all this time, bro. The Dolphins and the Colts are hampered with their starting quarterback play. Now watch out, because Jameis Winston is actually back starting for the Browns now. And if they don't have Tua, man, I don't know, man. You can see the clear pathway that the Bengals actually do get into the playoffs. Now, again, they got to beat Pittsburgh in Heinz Field or Acrisure Stadium. They still got to handle their business. But, man, after last night, do you not feel that this can actually truly be the case? And if you're –
I don't know that we're having this conversation either if the NFL gets the call right on the Gesicki touchdown against the Patriots and a flag isn't thrown in Kansas City, or I don't know, pick any two kicks that McPherson missed that cost us games. If any of those, two of those games fall, we're talking about an 11-win team and probably Joe Burrow's award to lose. Pretty simply put.
Yeah.
I think a right foot and a bad call and probably the right call, but just doesn't normally get called in that situation, goes our way, and I think Joe Burrow is the front runner for this.
Dude, just win one of those games against the Ravens, bro, and then already that's one feather in your cap of the signature win. Like the first game, more specifically, you win that game, and the second game unfolds the way it does, in the way, and even with that being an L, you split with the Ravens, outperforming Lamar playing at his best. Dude, that's the award is yours. The
Yeah,
award would have been truly yours.
Tim's right here, roughing the call passer against the Ravens. I
Yeah.
mean,
In
that's pretty
in both
bad.
in both situations, in both games, Joe Burrow truly outplayed Lamar Jackson in both of those games. And yes, Lamar played really well in both of those games too. And Ravens fans can argue tooth and nail as well too that, oh well, our guy outplayed Joe guy, he got the win. But you also got the game handed to you at times too, bro.
Mhm.
Like Joe Burrow was making things miserable for the Ravens, bro. It just baffles me that it's just these curated arguments that really make no sense, and we're kind of having one now, but like it's kind of coming from a true place of value because Joe Burrow has been very valuable for this team. He is the literal reason why we are still in the hunt and still about to finish the season stronger than we
And
started.
in the second half of the season, he's averaging, I haven't done the numbers with adding last night in, but he's averaging somewhere around 330 yards a game and 3 tutties.
I want to know what those numbers look like now after last night's game.
Because it was 319 going into last night's game, and he had 412 yards passing last night.
Man, that's wow. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
That is some crazy stuff. Nobody's really doing that. You really haven't seen anybody do that. Out of all the prolific passers that we've seen in the previous couple of decades, you've never really seen something like this yet. And let's be real. If he would have had the same record as the Buffalo Bills right now, never mind Kansas City because they're 15-1, and that's a hard record to try to emulate. But 12-3, that's a fair emulation record because we all thought with this easy schedule that we was going to have something around that. Do you not think that Joe Burrow is hands down the runaway winner of MVP?
I think he's the clear front runner for sure.
The clear front runner. You don't see him losing it anytime soon. That's it. That's just pretty much it.
Tim Lyons in the chat. We appreciate you rocking in the chat with us, Tim. Even though he can't be here right now. To quote Beast Mode, Tim taking care of his chickens. Tim Lyons says the league needs to allow a challenge flag used to challenge penalties as well. Listen, I don't mind that. I don't think you can do it with all penalties. You can't do it with holding. The game will take too long. You can't do it with this, that, and the other. Maybe with defensive holding or pass interference, maybe have an under 4 minutes in the half situation where you get one challenge with those, or anything to do with player safety. So
personal foul penalties.
Personal foul penalties, roughing the passer, blows to the head, targeting, those kind of things. If you're going to do, if the league really wants to go, player safety first, those should be reviewable in my mind without a problem.
Yeah, because you got to think about it. The NBA, they review flagrant fouls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And,
Same thing.
It's really much the same concept. So you don't want to get too crazy with the flags to challenge every single penalty just because that'll be a slippery slope that everybody's going to challenge an illegal formation call. But yeah, you do want to be able to hold these refs accountable, man, for some of the missed opportunities. Because again, it affected the games that we played this season. Tim already mentioned one when it came to the Ravens game, the second one more specifically. But yeah, nonetheless, man, the past is the past now. Unfortunately, we still got a chance to be able to fight for a playoff spot for the final 7 seed. And let's see what this team can do, man. This team is showing themselves they can put together 4 straight wins, win one of the teams against a quality opponent. Now you're on the road at Pittsburgh, and we'll see how that one shakes out. Pittsburgh is draining really fast, like they haven't been themselves, and we kind of saw that coming while everybody was crowning them too early after they beat us the first time. And they never even should have won that. And now Pittsburgh they kind of look like, ugh. I mean, we'll do the preview episode for that game. But I'm not really so sure that if you're the Steelers that you need to be walking into this Week 18 matchup, even though you're at home and you play well at home. I'm not so sure that you need to be walking in this thinking that, we're going to own these guys coming in the state. But I don't think so, bro. You're going to have a dogfight on your hands for real, and you might lose this game.
Double A here says, yeah, especially when you have a defense that can't hardly tackle. It's a good segue, but first we got to get into hearing from our sponsors before we break down the offensive and defensive side of the ball and give away our game balls. We'll break down a little bit more of this Broncos-Bengals matchup right after a word from our sponsors. All right, welcome back to Running Through the Jungle's roaring reactions and coaches' cliff notes. I will say this. Let's get these coaches' cliff notes out the way real quick.
Let's do it.
It's a bunch of BS. We know it's all fluff. Zach Taylor never says anything interesting. But last night, he did say that the best football player on the planet is Joe Burrow. And we normally don't hear stuff like that with Zach. And he said, if you want to have an argument about it, Jamar Chase deserves to be in the argument. I thought that was pretty telling to where he, thinks that those guys are at. And I can have a hard time disagreeing with them. The other thing he said that when you look at it, talking about who's the best and who's having the MVP season and all this other stuff, he said, the way I can tell you is this. I would not trade Joe Burrow for anyone in the universe. So, I mean, that's kind of where he's saying that. Maybe that's not the MVP argument, but would you trade Joe Burrow right now for Lamar Jackson?
Hell no. Nah.
Where it sits right now, would you trade him for Patrick Mahomes?
Hell no. Nah.
I wouldn't either. And this is the first season I've said that. This is Joe Burrow coming into his own and really doing his thing. And I think the more he has his imprint on the offense, the team, and his attitude, I think we're going to see this. I don't think this is the pinnacle. Let's leave it at that. I think you're going to see more out of him.
Yeah, that's the crazy part about it, is that you think that there's still another level of ascension beyond what we're seeing right now. I mean, last week I said it, man, he looked like Peyton Manning in the first half against the Browns, where he was just slicing and dicing up that Browns secondary, neutralizing their pass rush with the quick game. It was very reminiscent of what I watched Peyton Manning do for years in Indianapolis and Denver too. But when his heyday during the Colts years, that's what I saw Joe Burrow was doing a week ago, and probably throughout most of the season. And then last night was more a culmination effort of that. You saw him finish. It wasn't a stall out effort of you were good the first half and terrible the second half. Bro.
Walking off the field, encouraging the chance of MVP. I mean, come on, man.
I was here for it, man.
That's a moment.
Dog, man, you can tell that he finally got that true monkey off his back of those naysayers that says that he's not clutch and doesn't have that clutch gene to throw the sexy game-winning touchdown to ice a game or whatnot. He did it last night, and then you saw him take the helmet off, just shove it in the middle of the field, and then just start saying, like, left effing go. That's what I'm effing talking about. Like, I was here for all of that, man, because I was always saying that same thing, too. It's like, I know Joe Burrow has it in him to be clutch and show that kind of effort, but in order for him to get the respect from his peers and from the ops and stuff like that, they got to be able to see that too on full display. And they all saw it last night. And it's like, yeah, shut up. Know he can do this. He's always been clutch. You know what I mean? It was just not in the sexiest way that you guys imagine it. And I do get it. The game-winning and overdrive touchdown, like game-winning, scores, it's astonishingly low for someone like Joe Burrow. But that's because he's clutching different ways. Like if you need to ice a game and while you still have the lead, he can do that. If you need him to put the game in the hands of the defense and set them up for success, he's done that. And those has been his clutch factors. If you need him to make a clutch throw, remember 2022 against Kansas City at home, a clutch throw, 14-yard completion for a fourth down when you already had the lead. That's clutch performance right there. These were the different clutch gene-like factors.
We've wasted some of his clutch plays and drives this year on missed field goals.
Oh, absolutely. And it's been like that in the past. Like we've kind of ruined some of those magic moments that he's make those clutch plays. And then the Bengals, the rest of the team around just failed around him. Like that's not his fault. I mean, again, they're going to look at it and say, well, did you win? It's those lazy arguments that I don't have any interest in like getting into anymore, but you get what I'm saying. So, man, he's been a treasure and a treat for the national audience, man. And I'm just happy to see that. Like normally in the situation where somebody puts up a lot of these stat lines and stuff like that, but have a mediocre season like we're having right now, they're still not nowhere near in the conversation of an MVP. But Joe Burrow is in the conversation. That's still, that shows how special he is.
Austin Zart says Joe Burrow is a treasure for this team, and you took the words out of my mouth, Justin. He's a treasure for football. If you're a football fan, he's a treasure. He's a pleasure to watch. Before we give out our offensive game balls and break down more of the offense, because there's a lot more I think to talk about there. Let's go to defense. Let's give out our defensive game balls and talk about what you saw on the defensive side of the ball that give you some hope. I saw some hope and optimism going forward, and like I said, I've changed about where I think we need to improve on. Justin, who got your defensive game ball, and what did you see on the defensive side?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I predicted Geno Stone to get the game ball, and that was a whiff by me. Sorry, but like it not like he played horrible, but it wasn't like what we saw from the previous 3 weeks. Whatever, we thought it was a quality opponent, but I thought he was going to take that step forward, but that was a whiff.
And
but
normally, when a safety makes a bad play, it's 6. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They're volatile. They're volatile.
Yeah. So for me, it's going to be between two guys, but I'm going to pay respectfully. This guy's going to get my game ball because I've been very critical of his play too throughout the rest of the whole season. But it's Jermaine Pratt. He's going to get my game ball. He made the play that basically helped the Bengals win the game, even though we didn't win it in that moment. He still made the play. If it wasn't for his interception, the Bengals don't get the ball back and score to be able to take the lead. Even though they gave it the tying touchdown up the following drive. But it wasn't because of Jermaine Pratt. Jermaine Pratt he looked like playoff P from like the 2021 Super Bowl appearing run. And like that guy that always just seemed to make the play at the right moment. He showed up on Saturday night. And for me personally, you can spread the wealth around, but I'm going to give him my game ball this time around. I'll tip my cap to him. Like I said, I've been very, very, very critical of this guy about his play, and it still doesn't alleviate one interception in that moment. Does not alleviate the fact that, dude, you've still been missing a lot of tackles and you're still too slow sometimes, and that we might still maybe need to move off of you when the offseason comes. It doesn't still change that. But in that moment, he showed up, and he showed up like we used to see from before. And I was very appreciative of seeing that. Overall, what I saw from the defense, this was a quality opponent. This is what I wanted to see. The big test against a quality opponent and a quality offense, the quick passing, rhythmic offense that the Denver Broncos had, they were able to knock them off their spot in the first half. Sean Payton even said it. Well, we just got to get back on rhythm. Well, that's because you're a rhythmic offense. And we saw that for years with Andy Dalton when he was our quarterback. Bo Nix is kind of leading that exact similar style of offense. But, man, it was kind of disappointing watching those big long ball touchdowns, especially the last one that tied the game up to send it into overtime.
Yeah.
It was disappointing to watch because you had clear opportunities to make better defensive plays on it. But whatever, man. I just chalk it up to they made the better play. And it is what it is. But I think that overall, the defense performed well. They helped bail the offense out in a lot of key spots. And overtime specifically, if it wasn't for their play, they didn't just give up a ton of yards and, lay down after the missed field goal. If it wasn't for the defense, man, Joe Burrow wouldn't have had the opportunity to come back and win the game anyway. So I would say I will give the defense an overall grade of a B+ for the degree of adversity, the missing, for how they looked in the past, and basically how they showed up and grew and kind of played like a connected team. So B+ is the grade that I'm getting. Jermaine Pratt is getting my defensive game ball.
I'm not mad about any of that. I keep them out of the A group because I thought the defensive line had a little bit of regression this game. They got gashed for some runs. I thought Chris Jenkins had a little bit of an off game for him from what we've seen in the past month. He didn't quite get off of the blocks. He doesn't get pushed backwards. I'll tell you that. Chris Jenkins ain't getting pushed backwards by no man. But he didn't get off blocks as well. But it's good to see, average play or slightly below average play from something that was such a glaring weakness early in the year. Yeah. You look at McKinley Jackson and Chris Jenkins has really helped bow that up a little bit. BJ Hill, I thought, played pretty well. Maybe not the stats you want to see. I mean, he only had 4 tackles or 5 tackles. but he definitely was the one pushing the ball around and being that leader of the defensive line. But the defensive line I thought played below average.
Yeah,
But listen, Mike Hilton has seen to I don't know if maybe he was dealing with soft tissue or something earlier in the year, but he seems to have gotten a little more pep in his step the past 3 or 4 weeks. I thought he played well. I like what I'm seeing out of Josh Newton. You still see some of those rookie mistakes here and there, but for the most part, man, I think we got a pretty good cover guy on our hands there. And then Cedric Johnson gets another sack this week.
crazy, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, good seeing him out there. Good seeing some of these younger guys getting in the rotation. I know we've talked about the reluctancy for our coaching staff to do so until their backs are against the wall, until injuries pile up and they're in there. Another guy that we've been waiting to see what his potential is for a couple, 2-3 years now is Joseph Osai, and he gets my game ball. 8 tackles, he had half a sack, and he was the guy that got the pressure on Bo Nix, hit his arm as he was following through, that led to that Jermaine Pratt interception. I also thought that was the key play of the game. So I'm going Osai. Austin Zart here. He's also shouting out Battle. I like Battle. I like where that is. It's going to be interesting in the offseason with the Geno Stone thing. Do we bring him back on that team option or do we let him walk? Because, we still have some guys that we haven't seen playing safety out there in our room that people have some high grades on. So I'd like to see that. But I'm going to give it to Joseph Osai, man, and I'm happy for him getting it too.
Yeah.
Because the guy's been through a lot. If you remember him sitting dejected on the Kansas City sideline after that late hit. I'm glad to see him getting his time and taking advantage of it. Playing well, man. He's playing well.
Sure.
So that's my game ball.
And quite frankly, man, he deserves it, man, for real. Like, that's a great choice, man. And along with that, the injury history that Joseph Osai has had to overcome too, since he got in the league with the wrist injury and then a couple of others, he was supposed to be one of those guys that was going to ascend to that next level. That, hey, when you inevitably lose guys like Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard, the next 2 guys that were supposed to be in that wave was Miles Murphy and Joseph Osai. Those are your next future edge rushers, and unfortunately hasn't materialized that way. It's still Trey Hendrickson and then whoever, but Joseph Osai has taken a nice step, and I wouldn't be mad if the Bengals bring him back. I would not be upset at all about it. I think that he's earned it, but I still don't think that it should stop you from trying to upgrade a little bit more.
Yeah, depending on what the market is on that contract too. If you get a value contract there, the guy knows the city, the scheme, the team. Tim Lyons, I think this is referring to Geno Stone here. He says his In Sync would sing bye 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 bye.
Yeah, it's one of those things for me with Geno Stone. Is like, look, we overinflated his production over the previous few weeks because it was against bad teams. And look, I give credit where credit is due. His PFF numbers actually look good during those 3-game winnings, the previous 3 games against those teams. But again, I needed to see it again against a quality offense, and he wasn't horrible, but it just still goes to show that, man, he's just not there yet. I don't think it's going to be what we always want it to be, but I'm not giving up on him as far as we kind of need him throughout the rest of the season. Just to kind of stabilize the free safety play. But yeah, you got to do something different about that. It just goes to show that when you go against stronger offenses and stronger quarterback play, dog, you're still not it. But again, I'll still give credit where credit is due. It's nice to see him right the ship and get comfortable here and there. Like I said, he didn't play bad. He still made some tackles. But when it came to the coverage assignments going against a better opponent, better offense, chances are they're going to take their chances if they see that they've matched up over you. And I would take that same matchup too.
I'll use the chat here to segue into our offensive game balls. Tim Lyons says we have the greatest wide receiver on the planet. Chase has entered my top 10 greatest wide receivers all time personally. Woo! Maybe a year too early for me, but I'm not mad at it. But let's get into that offensive game ball and your offensive takeaways. Justin, what did you see from the offense yesterday?
Yeah, man, the offense was absolutely astounding, even though they've had the missed opportunities, but it was mainly because there was a number of drop passes in this game, and you're going to have that. I mean, unfortunately, that's the way how the league rolls sometimes. And look, the Chargers played against the Patriots at the 1 o'clock window, and they had a number of drop passes in that game. They still was able to muster up 40 points on the Patriots. Again, that was the Patriots, and they were bad, but you
They
know,
beat us.
this happens all across the league. You know what I mean? So you're going to have, that's something that you're going to have to overcome, is that Jamar Chase dropped a crucial touchdown pass that would have put them like 14-0, or I believe at the time or whatnot, or 14-3, whatever it was. And it's stuff like, man, you can't have that. Yoshi Voss, and I know there was a penalty on it, but Yoshi Voss dropped a touchdown pass that would have put it up even further. But again, you're going to have that. You're going to have to overcome that kind of stuff. And the thing is, I saw Joe Burrow did overcome it. I hate that he had to take a lot of sacks, but I'm so happy that he was able to maneuver and deliver and still keep the poise and still keep the offense churning along. I know that the obvious choice should go to Joe Burrow as my game ball recipient, but the person I'm actually going to give it to, even though I predicted Jamar Chase to show out and he did get 100 yards over 7 receptions, is this guy.
Nine catches, 102.
The guy that I'm showing up on a graphic screen, if you're not watching on YouTube and we'll be watching on our audio platform later, is T. Higgins. 11 catches for 131 yards and 3 touchdowns, including catching the game winner. Dude, put to bed the notion that we can move on from T. Higgins in the offseason comfortably, because you can't.
On a week that he was questionable, Justin. He
was questionable,
limited practice with an ankle injury the whole week.
And he fought through it and still balled out. And he, in my opinion, was the main go-to guy that helped Joe Burrow get bailed out of some of that pressure when nobody else was getting open. Jamar Chase was getting sticky covered by Patrick Surtain. He was able to locate T. Higgins in critical spots. Now, I know he also had the fumble, okay? Not going to excuse that. Mm-hmm. And he's not going to excuse that. But, dude, the overall production of T. Higgins just made me feel like that I don't even care about that fumble anymore. It don't exist to me, because he still caught the pass and still got the first down. Again, those are things you got to overcome in this league. Fumbles happen, turnovers happen. It was uncharacteristic of him, and I'm sure that he knows that he had that one back. But it is what it is. Chase Brown fumbled before. Jamar's fumbled before. Joe's fumbled last week. We've seen this happen all the time. So, but to me, I'm going to give it to T. Higgins just because, man, all the talk, too, about Riley Moss, he was coming back. Broncos fans really, especially your boy Big E Bronco in the chat from this.
Yeah. Wait, hold on a second. Those guys aren't. We had 2 Broncos guys in the chat last week. They're not in here right now, are they?
Big E Bronco was in the chat last week, and he was talking crazy spicy, saying Riley Moss was going to do this, that, and a third or whatnot, and saying look, and I respect those guys. I don't even really know much about Riley Moss's game, but even Dan Orlovsky tweeted, said it's simple. Riley Moss plays, the Broncos win. If he doesn't, the Bengals win. Well, Riley Moss did play, and he got mossed by T. Higgins 3 times, including the go-ahead game winner. So with that being said, bro, enough is enough with that stuff. You need T. Higgins. Do not try to sell this notion that you can be okay moving on without him just because you still have Jamar. He helped bail out Jamar. He was one of that critical X value piece that unlocked Jamar, because he needed T. Higgins on the field that day. And that's what we've been saying, bro. There's a reason why the Bengals go out on the field with captains as Jamar T and Joe every game now. It's those 3 as the captains. There's a reason for that. It's because they know that T. Higgins is a core centerpiece for this team, and you need to bring him back as such. So he's getting my game ball. Way to go out with your – I'm hoping it's not your final game in Cincinnati, especially playing in Cincinnati. But if it is, bro, way to go out with a major bang with that one. And I just hope that we can see more of it, bro, because, man, 5 is too nice for me.
We'll get into talking a lot more about that in the offseason. I'm for sure about that. I had this saved kind of for the end of the show, but you brought it up with the comments that were made. And listen, Biggie Bronco, welcome every week. Come on in. I love chatting with you. He definitely knows football. I was wrong earlier in the year about my takes on Bo Nix. I've walked that back. I think he looks like they've got a promising future there. I think they're they're going to be a team that's going to be improving and going to be hard to contend with in the AFC over the next few years. All those things said, Riley Moss, good. But the problem was he's a really good player that was playing a great player. The Bo Nix, I think, is good. Tim Lyons has said Nix is Herbert 2.0. I don't think he's that good.
I don't think so either.
No. I don't think he's that good.
No.
What I think about Nix is I think he's a really good game manager, right? I'll be interested to see. Andy Dalton, I think, is a good one to compare him to. Maybe I don't know. Let me think about the comp. I'll think about that comp for a second. But it literally, he was 24-31, checked down Charlie most of the night, 219 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. He ran the ball. We heard about his legs constantly. Ran the ball 7 times for 31 yards.
Hey, Brock Purdy can be a solid comparison too, a little bit. But
there you go.
Yeah.
But if you take away those 2 catches from Mims, one with blown safety coverage and one with an amazing jump ball, he had 143 yards, right? 219, 143 in a game that goes to overtime. He's good. He's got control of the offense. He's going to get better. But I'm not ready to anoint him. Do I think that he has the upside of Daniels or Caleb Williams or the other guys that he was drafting? No. Do I think if JJ, and listen, look at the M over my shoulder, there's a little bit of homerism in this conversation. I think JJ McCarthy is going to be a much better quarterback than him. Like, I think he's going to be good. I just don't know that he's going to be great.
I think that I think overall the team around him needs to be great for him to also be great. And that's nothing wrong with that. He's a very effective quarterback. Again, we heard these during the early stages of Andy Dalton. When we first came out on the scene in 2011 with him as a rookie, we were ecstatic about him playing. And we thought that we were happy with this play. Let's just keep it a buck. We were just happy with his play. But he also needed A.J. Green to win high-level games. Bo Nix, I think that he can be a little bit better than that, so to speak. But at the end of the day, I still think that he needs to prove himself that he can be more than just a game manager still as the years go on. But
he's got a great opportunity with his coach. I think Sean Payton's going to give him all the opportunity to succeed he can get.
And Sean Payton did give him the opportunity. Now the question that they're facing is, why didn't you go for 2 when you did do the game time touchdown? Instead, you tied and decided to go to overtime.
And they did it. They
did. I thought they were doing it before. I thought that they were doing it beforehand, and I was like, you know what though? I'm not even upset at them. I wouldn't even be upset that they went for 2, because like I said, what the Bengals have also shown on film is that when the game goes into overtime and when they need that and gotta have it drive in overtime, they haven't really came through for real. And we went 1, 2, 3 and out in the first possession of overtime. And I just thought to myself, like, oh, here we go again. They're going to get the ball. They're going to go to field goal range and punt it. But then the defense stepped up. And then our offense. So regardless of that, didn't even matter because they still had the opportunity to win the game in overtime anyway.
They did call for 2. And then when they reviewed that catch, they came back out and kicked the field goal. I didn't know what was going on, but I needed us to do what we do because of maybe some gambling things I had going on. I don't know.
Well, maybe that needs to be the question, even though I don't question them for not ultimately going for 2, but that needs to be the question for them needing it. Why they didn't go for 2? You got Joe Burrow on the other sideline. That's the thing. That's how Joe Burrow can affect the game. If they were going against any other quarterback that's a below average quarterback or whatnot, if they were going against anybody else, nobody would be throwing that question. But because you threw that question, because they're going against Joe Burrow and how he's playing, yes, that question comes up. You just think about it. We've seen this several times already with teams that like, why'd you go for the tie? You know you're going against Patrick Mahomes. Why you go for the win? You know you're going against Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. That's how you know the value of Joe Burrow is sky high, because that question has been asked when the reality is, bro, you shouldn't be scared to tie the game up and go into overtime, with the chance to stop them in overtime too, because their defense was still playing pretty good. I'm sorry. I like their defense moving forward as well too. But look, I think Bo Nix will be fine. I think that he's going to be one of those guys that will be productive in his career. You might see several playoff appearances from him. Hell, he might even win a playoff game if the right matchup comes along. But at the end of the day, I don't know if he's going to be the guy that if you ever want him to win the AFC West and Patrick Mahomes is still there, he's going to take you over that threshold. But he is good enough to go toe to toe and beat a guy like Justin Herbert in their division. So.
Yeah, listen, before I give my offensive game ball out, I'm going to address this right here. Tim Lyon says that's the biased Michigan take right there, talking about me thinking that McCarthy's better than Nix. He says, I think Nix is better than McCarthy. JJ didn't even throw the ball at Michigan. We shall wait and see about that. Not sure if he's better than Nix. JJ McCarthy, his last year at Michigan, had more third down and 8 or more pickups and first down than anybody in the country. You have no idea what you're talking about. The last time that Notre Dame had a good quarterback taken in the first round of the draft, you were still pissing the bed, Tim. Joe Montana. Listen, get that schneid comments out of here. JJ McCarthy, if you watch the preseason, looked like he was going to be a beast, an animal, hard to deal with. He would be having as good, if not better, of a season right now as Sam Darnold, let alone Bo Nix. Get out.
I'm staying out of that conversation. That's a fight between y'all two, but I'm
get
just
out of here. You just watch it play out. I'm gonna have something to say for you over the next couple of years.
Don't you got things to take care of?
Yeah, go take care of your chickens. Get out of here. You get out of here. All right.
I'm happy. Tim has always been enjoying the chat. Even though he can't make the show or whatnot, I'm always happy to see him enjoy the chat and chime in on his takes. But I like seeing y'all fight and argue. For all those that's listening, I always had to hear them, battle each other off camera and off air. It's always a joke fest, whatever, between them two. So I'm always here for the show. I just need popcorn.
We've been doing this for about 40 years now.
Yeah, way back.
So listen, offensive game ball. I referenced the 8 straight 250-yard and 3 touchdown games. I referenced the 40-yard touchdown or the 40 touchdown club. I'm gonna give you the stats from just last night for Mr. Joe Burrow. 39 of 49, 412 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 4 rushing attempts for 25 yards and a rushing TD and 1 gritty. I'm giving my game ball to Joe Burrow, man.
Man, that gritty was nice. He is a
bad man.
Yeah, man. Like it's hard to go. I hated picking, against him. But
when a wide receiver has 3 touchdowns,
man,
that's fair. And here you go, Tim. Now you're giving us good stuff. And he also got sacked 7 times.
Sacked 7 times and still, like Caleb Williams, I watched him get sacked 7 times against the Seahawks and couldn't do nothing. And yeah, Joe Burrow, when he gets sacked 7 times, it's okay. I'm just going to throw 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and run 4 total touchdowns because he did the quarterback sneak for 1. And we also saw Joe Burrow get sacked 9 times in the playoff game and still delivered a kill shot to win. So, yeah.
He said, fire that whole internal line. Take the coach with you. Take the coach with you. All right. Well, listen, we will be back. Wednesday is New Year's Day. We may end up doing our running through the jungle on Thursday. A lot of New Year's Day football going on. I don't know if we want to get in the middle of that.
Yeah,
so probably looking at Thursday next week. Be the regular time, just not the regular day. Justin, any closing thoughts, comments before we get out of here?
We're still alive. We're still here.
Yes,
I'm watching these Sundays games going to be unfolding, man. Hey, the Browns Dolphins game, the Colts and whoever they play, the Giants. Yeah, the Colts Giants games. Those are going to be the 2 main games I'm going to be watching. They're dealing with some quarterback injuries over in Miami and in Indianapolis. They've already made the switching with the Colts. I don't know. Upset alert could be happening. Just saying.
I've been on the we don't deserve to go to the playoffs. I'm not concerned about whether we're going to the playoffs. But I feel like it's weird to think that what other teams do may affect whether Joe Burrow has a chance to win that MVP or not, but I feel like it does, oddly enough, which I think is crazy. But because I placed 25 to win $2,000 at the time I put the bet in, I'm probably going to be rooting against the Dolphins and Colts. You know what I mean? So I'll be paying attention more than I'd like to admit for sure. Yes,
so
Tim.
Happy.
Tim speaks for all of us, by the way. Happy New Year to everybody that
Yes,
listens to Running Through the Jungle. We appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, share, rate, review. But yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. 2025 is going to be a killer year.
We coming, and I'm just so happy that we got that win just to make Week 18 entertaining.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. More to, as if we need more motivation to play Pittsburgh. As someone who lives in Pittsburgh and wears his stripes with pride, next weekend should be fun for me.
Bruh, for real.
We appreciate you guys. Have a safe and happy New Year. Enjoy yourself. Remember, don't drink and drive. It's not worth it. Uber's real easy these days. Until next week, we'll talk to you later. That's it for the Roaring Reactions and Run Through the Jungle crew. Peace.